It's Benitez here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's WTF episode, I'm going to share with you all how you can create in-app notifications for model-driven apps the low-code way. For the agenda, I'm going to talk about what is in-app notifications for model-driven apps. Then I'm going to talk about the use case followed by the two methods that I'll be sharing in this WTF episode. Then I'll talk about a tool that is available in XrmToolBox before I show you in action how you can configure this the low-code way and see in-app notifications. What is in-app notifications for model-driven apps? Well, back in the day when developers wanted to provide users with notifications, it was designed in a way where the user experiences seeing a pop-up message. So this motion is similar to toast popping up out of a toaster. So think about the toaster in your kitchen. You put 2 slices of bread down and when it's ready, it pops up. So that's it. That's the history behind toast notifications, which is essentially what an in-app notification is for model-driven apps. Now, this is a preview feature, which means that it will become generally availability in the next few months. So watch this space. And yeah, here's my toaster. Okay, so in terms of how that in-app notifications is displayed to the user, it's going to appear on the right-hand side. So there's going to be a new pane that's specifically dedicated to notifications. And as you can see, a user can interact with that in-app notification as well in the form of hyperlinks. So here, if they click on View Claim, it's going to take them straight away to the claim. And if they click on View Member, it's going to take them straight away to View Member. So for the use case, in case you didn't work it out from that previous slide, it's for an insurance organization. So as a claims assessor, I need to be notified when a claim requires further investigation so that I can assign it to myself and review it. Now, I'm going to show this in the context of a couple of end users. So first of all, we have Christy, who is the claims advisor. Now, Christy is going to be creating a new claim and then flagging whether it requires an advisor or not. And then we've got Alex and Adele, who are the claims assessors. So in other words, they need to assess that insurance claim further. So the two methods I'm going to be sharing with you today in this WTF episode is first, how you can notify a single user. And then the second one will be how can you notify users within a team? In other words, notifying more than one user at the same time. One of the tools that I'm going to be showing you today is the in-app notification builder tool. This was a tool developed by Ivan Fitzko. So he is a Microsoft MVP based in Croatia. Hi, Ivan. And this is a tool that is built in XrmToolBox. So XrmToolBox is essentially your Swiss Army knife for all things Dataverse or Dynamics 365. Again, this was developed by another legendary Microsoft MVP in our community, Tanguy. If you want to know about other tools, I highly recommend that you go and check out Lynn's blog posts. So Lynn is another Microsoft MVP in our community, and he has blogged about all the different tools that you can use in XrmToolBox. Okay, so without further ado, I'm first going to take you to XrmToolBox and show you how the in-app notification builder tool works, and then I'm going to show you how you can apply it in Power Automate. So let's do that now. This is XrmToolBox, and when you first use it for the when you use it for the first time, you do need to connect it to an environment. So down here on the bottom left, we can see that we're connected to one of my environments, and then you can search for the tool. So because I've used it, it's showing in my recently used tools, but for you, what you would need to do is go to the configuration tab, select tool library, search for it, click on it, and then it will be added to your list of tools. And then to find it, again, you can just search for it and then it will appear. So then when you click on it, it's going to bring up a new tab. So I'm going to explain the different features that are available in this tool. The first one is the app field. Now in the app field, it's going to display the apps that are available to you in this environment that you're connected to. So in my use case, I have a claims app, and this is the one that I'm going to select. Now, the next feature is the notification status. Now, personally, I love this feature because in one click, you can enable in-app notifications in your environment. If you have a look at the documentation, this is their steps on how you can enable the in-app notification preview feature. Now, if you're a code-first developer, you would probably be totally comfortable with following these steps, but as a citizen developer or a maker or someone who doesn't have that programming language and you see these steps and you kind of freak out because you're like, I don't know what this is, I don't really know how to apply this, then that's where XrmToolBox, in terms of the in-app notification builder tool, comes in handy, because as I mentioned, in one click you can just enable it and that's it. Now, the next feature is the test feature, which I'll cover as we build our notifications. I'll cover this later. Then we have the get code feature. Now, in here, you've got several options. The first two are aimed at code-first developers, whereas the third one is Power Automate. And that's what we're going to use today so that I can show you how you can create a low-code in-app notification. Okay, so after these features that you see up here, you next have a bunch of fields that you need to work with and enter some information in. Now, one of the other great things about this tool is that you can see your in-app notification in real time in terms of how it's going to be displayed to that end user. If you were doing this simply in code or straight away in Power Automate without this tool, you won't be able to see it until you actually execute it. But by using this tool, as you're building it, you can see and change it accordingly until you're happy with how the in-app notification is going to look like for your end users. So the first field is the title field. I'm going to update this to new claims created. And as you can see in real time, it's updating the in-app notification straight away. Now, in terms of the body, this is the content of the in-app notification in terms of the message. So I can say a new claim has been created that requires an assessor. And the next thing that I can do is apply some formatting. So I can make this bold, I can apply italics, I can apply a heading, I can also create a hyperlink. So let's say if I want to add click here, so let me just copy this URL, click on the hyperlink icon, type in here, and then paste that URL, and I click on insert. You can see that the hyperlink is now displayed. So again, this is very, very user-friendly. You don't need to have a programming background to be able to work with this tool. So thank you, Ivan, for creating something so handy that I know the community will absolutely love. Okay, so then the next two fields is toast type. So you can have timed or hidden. Timed means it's going to appear for the user in the same way your toast pops out of the toaster in your kitchen, and then it's going to disappear. So the next option is hidden. So hidden is different, where it's not going to appear to the end user. It's not going to pop up. It's simply going to be visible only when that user clicks on the bell icon. Now, I'll show you what this looks like when I demo this in action. The next one is the expires in field. Now, this field defines when you want this notification to expire. The next option that we have in here is the icon. So the icon is this part of the in-app notification. If I select success, if I click success, the icon will change. And likewise, when I select failure. So these are icons that come out of the box with in-app notifications. Now, if I wanted to use my own custom icon, I simply need to create a web resource and upload a file in that web resource, and then I can select it from here. So for example, let me select this PNG that I've uploaded as a web resource, and as you can see, that icon now appears. And the last bit is actions. So actions will display as hyperlinks to the end user. So for the first one, I'll say view claims. Now, when the user clicks on the hyperlink, I want them to see the record load in the same window, and that's what this option inline represents. And then I want to display the record, and in here is where I select the table. So in other words, the insurance claim. So I'm going to select the insurance claim. And then in here, I can also select which form do I want to display to the end user. So if you have more than one form, then you'll see multiple form options displayed in this drop down. I only have one form for this table, so that's what I'm going to select. And then as you can see, it has automatically generated that URL for you. So now when I click create, we can see that hyperlink has been created straight away. Now I'm going to add another action where I'm going to say view member. So this time I'm going to select new window. So in other words, when they click on that hyperlink, it's going to launch a new browser window for them to view that particular record. And again, I'm going to scroll down and select member and select the form. So in here, I've got several forms and I'm going to select member. Now there are other types that you can load, as you can see, but for the end user experience today, I want them to be directed to that record when they click on that link. And so that's why I'm clicking, that's why I'm selecting record as the type. Now, when I click create, again, we'll see those two hyperlinks. So that's it in terms of how you build your in-app notification using this particular tool in XrmToolBox. Now, if you want to test it before you apply this in Power Automate, this is where this test feature comes in handy. When I click on this, it's going to present me with this modal or window where I can select which user do I want to send this test notification to. So let's go ahead and select Alex. So Alex is one of the claims assessors. So what's happening is the in-app notification builder tool is creating that notification record behind the scenes, and then it's going to push it out to the model-driven app specifically for Alex. Okay, so let me open up my browser where I'm logged in as Alex, and I'm Alex. I'm a claims assessor. I'm doing my thing in my app, and eventually we're going to see it appear, and it's going to appear on the right-hand side. So this bell is essentially the icon where users can view the notification as well as dismiss them. So as you can see, it's appeared straight away and then it disappears. So now when I click on it, I can see all of the notifications that are relevant to me. And then here are the two tests that I've created. Now, if I click on these hyperlinks, that's not going to go anywhere because I haven't configured that yet. This is simply just a test, so just keep that in mind. Now, before I go back to the XrmToolBox, I do want to briefly talk about the hidden type of notification. So the one that you saw was a timed. In the scenario where it was hidden, and if you think back, you saw a number value of 1. That is what the end user experience will be for the user. So they're not going to see the pop-up, but they will see that a new notification has appeared based on that number that's now displaying on the icon. So when they click on the bell icon, then they will be able to see that notification. So that's the difference between those two types of notifications. Okay, so now back in XrmToolBox, let's go and select Power Automate in the Get Code. And this is what is automatically generated based on what you've defined in here. So essentially, this allows you to copy and paste the values into Power Automate. What I do want to talk about is the data block. So this is essentially a representation of the hyperlinks that you're seeing in here. And actually, let me go and explain it in Power Automate so that you can see it in full. Okay. So let's head into the Power Automate Maker portal. This is my cloud flow. The trigger is when insurance claim row is created or added, and it requires an assessor. That's why I have this filter here. It's going to create a new notification. So this is the add a new row action in the Dataverse connector. This is the action that you want to select, and the table that you want to select is notifications. and then you can copy and paste your references from XrmToolBox. One of the fields that I do want to highlight is this model-driven app field. If you want this notification to only be displayed in a particular model-driven app, this is where you would provide the GUID of that app. Now, to get that app GUID, it's essentially this value in your URL path. You can paste it in here, or you can use an environment variable. And that way, if you are an organization and you've got several environments as part of your center of excellence, you would first create this in dev, and then when you deploy it into your UAT or your live environment, then you would change the environment variable in those target environments with the app ID that represents that model-driven app in that target environment. So yeah, that's just one tip from me. Use environment variables, and so that way it's not going to break when you deploy it to a different environment, because app IDs are unique to environments. They do not stay the same across your environments, basically. So that's why we use environment variables. Okay, so that's that model-driven app field. I just wanted to highlight that. So in here is where you can start configuring it and making it more dynamic, or make it more, how do I say it? Make it a better end user experience for the user. So what I mean by that is, now that we're in Power Automate, we can reference field values or column values from your different actions. So in here, I'm simply grabbing the claim number from the insurance claim row that has triggered this Cloudflow, and that way the claims assessor can see the claim number that it's related to. And then in terms of the data, now this does look a bit scary, but it's not. So I'm going to head over to my PowerPoint so I can explain what these different representations mean when you look at the notification. So if I start with this, these are essentially a representation of your hyperlinks. So this is what you would have copied from the XrmToolBox and App Notification Builder tool and pasted it into Power Automate. And then again, you can insert the dynamic references to fields or columns from your other actions. So once again, I'm saying grab the ID of that insurance claim. So this is going to be from the trigger. And then I want to pull through the member. So the member ID based on the member field that is in my insurance claim record. And so that way, when they click on view claim and they click on view member, it'll then take them directly to those records, making it a really nice end user experience. And all these other numbers that you see on the screen is mapped to the field in Power Automate so that you can understand how they work together. So in other words, if we have a look at number 6 and we have a look at number 6 on the left-hand side in Power Automate, this is essentially what defines the icon. And then likewise with the title, this is this field in the Power Automate action. So I just wanted to make that clear for your learning so that you understand how this actually works. Okay, so heading back to my Cloudflow, and that's pretty much it in terms of your in-app notification the low-code way. Now, I want to make sure that you understand that in here, I'm referencing a single user. So if you think back to my slides, I talked about 2 methods. The first one being how to notify a single user. In here, just for the purpose of this demo, I'm referencing the user who created the insurance claims, in other words, Christy. So I'll show you how this works right now. So let's head over to Christy's browser profile. Let's open up a member and go ahead and create an insurance claim. So now when I click on New Insurance Claim and I give it an estimate, so let's say 50,000, I give it a claims date, I select the insurance policy for this member, I now update this field to yes, I click Save and Close. So what's going to happen behind the scenes is that this Cloudflow is now going to trigger. If we head back to the Cloudflow, we can see that it has now been triggered. and it's gone and created that notification for me. So let's head back to Christy's model-driven app, and let's say she's working in the app, and eventually we will see that notification appear on the right-hand side as a toast notification. So let me just click through and give it a few more seconds. All right, so here we go. So there's my in-app notification to a single user. And again, if I click on it, it'll show me all of my notifications. So now when I click View Claim, it's going to load that claim directly in the same window because of how I use the target value as inline. And now if I click on View Member, this should launch a new browser window where I can see that member in a different tab. Ta-da! Okay, so that was how to notify a single user. Let's head back to my Cloudflow and I'll explain how you can apply the same but for several users in a team. I'm just gonna put that down here. I don't want to delete this, so let me just do this before I dive into the explanation. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we're first gonna retrieve a team. Now, in Dataverse, you have the concept of team. So a team can be associated to a business unit, and in that team, you can associate end users. There are different team types that you can create. So one example is an owner team. So I've created this locally in Dataverse. The other one is an Azure AD group. So in other words, that is defined and created in Azure AD. And so for all of the users that live within that team is essentially the team members. So that's why I'm grabbing a team record so that I can notify the users in this team. In my example, this team is the claims team and I've got 3 users. So to reference that team, you grab the GUID of that team. So in other words, the ID, and then you can paste it in here. However, I'm using an environment variable, and that way, when I use environment variables, I can deploy this to another target environment, and I can update the equivalent team ID in that environment so that it'll work. If I were to just paste it as is, so in other words, the ID, that will work in that current environment, but as soon as you deploy this to a target environment, it's not going to work because that team ID doesn't exist in that target environment. So that's where environment variables come in handy. And you would have noticed that I also used it in this action. So in here, I'm grabbing the org name. So again, if I go back to my model-driven app, that's this value. And then in here, I'm grabbing the app ID. So the app ID is this value in the URL path. And again, it's so that when this Cloudflow is deployed to a target environment, it will always continue to work. And all I need to do is update the environment variables accordingly to values that exist in that particular environment. So that's just a quick bonus side tip. Okay, so once the Cloudflow retrieves that team, it's then going to loop through all of the users in that team, and then it's going to create a notification for each user. Now, this is exactly the same as my single user notification. The only slight change that I'm doing is I'm mentioning the team. So in here, I've got some string where I'm saying @claims assessor, and then I've got a reference again to that team ID. So if I just go back to the documentation, and if we scroll down to the very last one, it's going to give you details on how you can insert an @mention in your in-app notification. So that's what I followed and I've applied in this Cloudflow. So I'm going to save this and we're going to see the Cloudflow in action next. Okay, so this Cloudflow is saving and I'm going to head back into Christy. So again, she is a claim assessor. I'm going to create a new insurance claim so that we can trigger that Cloudflow that's going to create the notifications for several users at the same time. So I'm selecting my insurance policy. I'm going to update this field to yes so that we can trigger that Cloudflow. Okay, so we've created our insurance claim. And I'm going to head over to Alex and Adele's user profile. So let me just zoom out of this so you can see it at the same time. So again, I'm Alex or I'm Adele. I'm in my model-driven app. I'm working on different records. And eventually what will happen is that we're going to see the notification appear. So as you can see, it's now appeared for Alex. We can see that at mention. And then likewise, it's going to appear for Adele as well. So let's give it a few more seconds. Okay, and so there we go. There is the in-app notification. And there you have it. That was the second method in terms of notifying multiple users at the same time when you build your in-app notifications. So one thing I do want to mention before we wrap up this episode is that in-app notifications, in terms of the toast type of notification, will only appear if that user is within the model-driven app. So in other words, if they are in Outlook and they're checking their emails and they don't have the model-driven app open up on their screen, they're not going to see that toast notification. So you have to be in the model-driven app to see that toast notification. However, if they come back to the model-driven app at a later time, they're still going to see the notification because as you can see for both Adele and Alex, we can see that by the icon, the bell icon, it has an integer value of 1. If they had more than one notification, so let's say 5, then they would see a value of 5. And then when they click on that bell, they will then see any notifications that they have missed while they haven't been in the model-driven app. And that way they can always see what they need to action. And that's it for today's WTF episode. I hope you enjoyed this WTF episode and learned something new. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next WTF episode. Bye!
Turn up. Let's go.